We have seen loads of crazy transfers so far in the summer transfer window, with players like Victor Gyökeres, Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong, Hugo Ekitike, and even Ryan Cherki all going to new clubs. But what do all of these players have in common? They are all moving to the Premier League. So far this summer, the top clubs in the Premier League have been spending loads and loads of money to bring in Europe's top talents all to the Premier League. And I think that next season, this could be real trouble for other leagues who aren't spending the same kind of money. I think that this summer, there has been a real shift, and the top Premier League clubs look like they're going far beyond all the other clubs in the world. So what does this mean for football in 2026? That's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. Obviously, throughout history, all the different leagues have had their time. We saw in the 80s and 90s that the Serie A was far beyond a lot of the other leagues. In the early 2000s and in the 2010s, usually the La Liga had the most money. But in recent years, the Premier League have been far beyond all the other leagues in terms of their spending, in terms of the players that they're able to bring in, and the amount of fans and audience that they're able to retain. This summer, we have seen loads and loads of crazy transfers, obviously the ones that I mentioned at the start of the video, but there's even been a lot of other crazy transfers this summer. And one thing that they all have in common is that all of these players are going to the top clubs in the Premier League, whether they were playing for mid-table clubs or whether they were playing for top clubs in other European leagues. Now they are all coming to the Premier League. Let's start off with Liverpool, because last season they finished in first place in the Premier League, and fair enough to them. Last summer they didn't make any real signings. The only person they brought in was Arne Slot, who ended up completely transforming their team, taking them to the Premier League title. But this summer, they have spent on a level that I have not seen in a long time. First of all, they've broken the British transfer record, signing Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen for over 130 million euros, which is absolutely insane. But they're also bringing in some other players, as they've already signed Milos Kerkez from Bournemouth, who had an incredible season last year, and they signed the right back Jeremy Frimpong from Leverkusen, who we all know is a very, very good player. Recently, Liverpool have also been linked with Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt, and it looks like they will try and sign him, and most likely they are probably going to get him. Moving on to Arsenal, we've already seen them sign a very, very good central midfielder in Martin Zubimendi. But on top of that, they've also signed Norgard from Brentford, and they also signed Masquera from Valencia. And obviously, we can't forget them signing Noni Madueke from Chelsea for £50 million. And also, they are on the brink of signing Victor Gyökeres from Sporting for another 60 or so million pounds. If we look at Chelsea, we all know that they were going to make some crazy moves in this transfer window, as they always do, signing loads of attackers. We saw them buy Jamie Gittins from Borussia Dortmund. They bought Joao Pedro from Brighton. They got Liam Delap from Ipswich, and obviously the South American talent Estevao will be joining the club this summer. And obviously, we can't forget about Man City, who already signed Tijani Rangers from Milan. They signed Ryan Ait-Nouri from Wolves, and they also went ahead and signed Ryan Cherki, who I think is an incredible player from Lyon. Now, what do all of these teams have in common? Last season in the Premier League, they all finished in the top four. Obviously, Liverpool finished in first, Arsenal in second, Man City in third, and Chelsea in fourth. And this summer, these four teams are the teams that are making the most signings out of all the other teams in Europe. So what does that mean for next season? It means that four teams that were already at the top of the Premier League, four teams that were already very good in Europe and were considered some of the best teams in the world last season, will be even better this season, spending hundreds of millions of pounds for each of these clubs. And what's crazy about this is, if we look at all the other teams around the world, most of these other teams are not spending the same kind of money that these teams in the Premier League are. Usually we see Real Madrid be one of the biggest spenders in Europe, but so far this summer, obviously they got Trent Alexander-Arnold, they recently signed Carreras, but they haven't really made any crazy signings like some of these Prem teams have. If we look at other top tier clubs like Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, PSG, all of these teams are signing players, but if they want to look at players from the Premier League, the evaluations are absolutely ridiculous. We saw Liverpool reject a 65 million euro fee from Bayern Munich to try and get Luis Diaz. That is absolutely crazy. We also saw Liverpool reject a 50 million euro fee from Napoli to try and sign Darwin Núñez. Darwin Núñez is not worth 50 million euros, 100%. Luis Diaz is not worth 60 or 70 million euros. Yes, these are good players, But what I'm trying to say is, with all of these Premier League clubs signing players for so much money, the inflation is absolutely crazy. Chelsea have just recently evaluated Nicholas Jackson at 100 million euros. He is nowhere near that. He is not even worth half of that. We saw AC Milan have interest in Nicholas Jackson and also a few other clubs as well. But for 100 million euros, he is never ever going to leave for that much money. That is absolutely ridiculous. Continuing on Liverpool, they are currently trying to sign Hugo Ekitike from Frankfurt, and they are trying to sign him for 80 million euros. Now, this is a more fair evaluation, but it's still very, very inflated, especially when you look at the likes of Victor Gyökeres, who Arsenal are trying to sign for between 60 and 70 million. And then you look at Luis Diaz, who is going for almost 70 million. Gyökeres is far clear of Luis Diaz. He is a much more important player for the squad and for Arsenal than Luis Diaz would be for the likes of Bayern Munich. So the fact that Liverpool are asking 70 million euros, I think is a little bit crazy. I already mentioned how Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea is a crazy evaluation, but not to mention that Arsenal have bought Noni Madueke from Chelsea for 50 million pounds. That's almost 60 million euros. For a player who played 27 games last season, he barely played over 2,000 minutes, and he only scored 7 goals with that Chelsea team. Yes, he was very good with PSV, but realistically, he did not show you 50 million pounds worth of performances last season. If anything, maybe 30 or 40 million at the top end, but 50 million plus add-ons is completely ridiculous. But even though the prices in the Premier League are very, very inflated at the moment, this does screw up a lot of other teams in other leagues, because like I already mentioned, if you look at Napoli, trying to sign a striker, trying to sign Darwin Núñez, but the evaluation for him is just way, way too high. If you look at Bayern Munich, they're trying to sign a winger, trying to sign Diaz, but the evaluation is again way too high. So what this does is it allows the Premier League to make a lot more money, because these clubs are not going to change. Chelsea is not going to change their crazy evaluation for Nicholas Jackson. Liverpool are not going to change their high evaluations for both Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez. And what that does is it kind of prevents these other clubs from other leagues from signing a lot of the top tier players from the Premier League, because they're just far too expensive. If you compare Gyökeres to Nicholas Jackson got 10 goals and 5 assists last season in the Premier League with Chelsea, and Gyökeres got almost 40 goals and 7 assists last season with Sporting. And you're telling me that Nicholas Jackson is worth 30 million more than Gyökeres? I think that's crazy. I think the Premier League next season is looking very, very scary. There are already a lot of great Premier League clubs this season. We saw Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, and how they dominated in the Premier League, and also how they were very, very good in Europe. Obviously, Chelsea won the Conference League. They won the Club World Cup against PSG. Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City did do pretty good in the Champions League as well. But this season, I just think these 4 teams are going to be very, very dominant in European football. And that is the end of this video. I just wanted to talk about the Premier League transfers so far this summer and give you guys a little bit of insights in the amount of money that's being spent, but also how other leagues currently are not really able to cope with it. If you guys think that the Premier League is going to dominate European football next season, remember to leave a comment down below. And obviously, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.